The man you see here is very real. His name is Stepan Tarabalka. He was killed in March, and a lot of people are claiming that he is the Ghost of Kyiv. If you haven't heard, the Ghost of Kyiv is this fighter pilot that showed up in the Russian-Ukraine conflict and has shot down, reportedly, 40 aircraft. Does the Ghost of Kyiv really exist? Well, we're going to examine that question here by looking at the number of aircraft that they claim. Remember, 40 aircraft in about a 3-week span. So, hold on, we'll take a historical run through the history of fighter pilots and their number of kills. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
And of course, most of these discussions begin with this man, Baron Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, and he had 80 kills in World War I. At that time, that was the most ever claimed by a fighter pilot. Oddly enough, he was a very cautious and strategic fighter pilot. I mean, didn't take chances. He was pure textbook. He was taught by his mentor, Oswald Boeltke, to undergo a certain procedure in shooting down aircraft, and that was don't take risks. So it's truly amazing he was able to shoot down 80 aircraft playing it by the rules. His brother, by the way, was far more reckless and probably the better pilot overall. His brother's name was Lothar, and he had 33 kills within just a few weeks of World War I, but he didn't finish up with 80. At any rate, Manfred von Richthofen with 80 kills. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, wait a minute, did he really shoot down 80? And the answer to that is certainly. In World War I, unlike from that point on, in World War I, you actually had to have proof that you shot down an aircraft. And that often meant that you couldn't claim a kill if it fell down behind enemy lines. So a lot of historians actually believe that he probably shot down 120 or so aircraft. Now, keep in mind that suppression of the kill count affected all pilots in World War I. And so a lot of the pilots who did not have as many as he did can also probably claim a lot more. But whatever the case, 80 confirmed kills in World War I sort of set the standard. Now, the number of kills would actually be broken by this man, Werner Molders. He was a fighter pilot for the Luftwaffe in World War II, and he broke Manfred's record. He ended up with 115 kills, but unfortunately for old Werner, he was actually killed in a strange accident when he was actually in flight in another aircraft going to a ceremony in Germany. So he was not actually shot down. But at any rate, Werner Molders, some people say that he was the greatest pilot of all time. Whatever, you can never really know for sure. Now, if you're a Russian pilot, this is the last dude you wanted to see on your tail. Now, he comes across here looking like a pretty nice kid, looks really young, and as harmless you could get. No, not exactly. This is Erich Hartmann, and he is the ace of all aces with 352 kills in World War II, most of them on the Eastern Front. Now, Erich did have some advantages that allowed him to shoot down so many aircraft. One, he was going up against the Russians, and their aircraft weren't particularly good, and the pilots weren't very good either. There were also a lot of planes for him to shoot down. The skies over the Eastern Front were very active, and so he had a lot of targets. The other issue that helped him was the fact that he had a good chance of being able to make it back to his airbase in case he ever got shot down. Now, Erich Hartmann was never shot down, but he had an unusual flying style that did get him knocked out of the sky a number of times. When I was a kid, I always dreamed about being a fighter pilot. And you always think about, out-strategizing the other pilot, out-turning them and outwitting them. Erich Hartmann had no interest in any of that. His style was simply dive in on an aircraft, tell the aircraft is right dead in front of you, then just open fire. So a Russian pilot going up against this guy had no chance at all. Of course, the downside of this is that all the debris coming off that plane is going to hit your plane. right? And so there's a very strong chance that you're going to get knocked out of the sky by the wreckage that you just created. And that happened to Erich Hartmann 14 times. That's right. He was knocked out of the sky 14 times by the debris that he created in his opponent. Again, he had no use for dogfighting. Now, that would not have served him well over the Pacific, because over the Pacific, your chances of being able to get recovered after bailing out of an aircraft weren't very good. I would encourage everybody to read about Erich Hartmann, because some of his escapades during World War II were pretty amazing. But he is the ace of all aces with 352. Now, how many did he really shoot down? Probably like 300. The reason why the number is artificially high is because as a fighter pilot, he tended to exaggerate when he shot someone down. But that was an issue that affected all pilots in World War II. So, yeah, you have to give it up to the dude. He was a fighter pilot extreme, but again, not the dogfighter that a lot of people imagined. Now, once jet fighters became real common, people started thinking that, wow, the number of kills is going to really climb. Nothing could be further from the case. It turns out that shooting down enemy jet aircraft is really hard to do. The top ace in the Korean War is this man, Nikolai Sutyugin, and he had, get ready, 22. That's right. The top ace in the Korean War had 22 kills. This is Joseph McConnell. He's our own top ace in the Korean War, and he had a grand total of 16. Now, let's go back to World War II. Richard Bong had 40. He was our top ace in World War II. Now, keep in mind, they had to send him back all the time to the continental United States to do training, I think in mostly San Diego. And he was killed in a training accident during the war. He had 40, but also keep in mind that he couldn't be as reckless flying out over the ocean as, let's say, Erich Hartmann could be over the Eastern Front. And so you can understand why 40 was pretty commendable. How many aircraft could he have shot down if he was in Erich Hartmann's shoes? Who knows? Nobody knows for sure. It certainly would have been more than 40, though, I would imagine. But we can see that trying to down enemy jet aircraft is really, really hard. So let's go to the Vietnam War. Now keep in mind, the Vietnam War lasted a long time. So far, we've only had about a few weeks of fighting between the Ukraine and Russia. But Vietnam went on for a decade or so. And this is Vietnam's top ace, and in fact, the top ace of all countries in the Vietnam War. This is Nguyen Ven Coc, and he had, get ready, 9 victories. That's right, 9. And again, shooting down large numbers of aircraft is just really difficult when the other aircraft is a jet. You're talking about long range, long distance kills using missiles. You're not using cannons or machine guns anymore, and it just becomes really difficult. So let's go back now and answer the question. Is it possible that this man, the Ghost of Kyiv, shot 40 aircraft down in a matter of weeks during the Ukraine-Russian war? And the answer is no. Ridiculous. And in fact, I think it would have been pretty remarkable if he had shot down at least a couple. 40 is completely unreasonable, and it doesn't jive with the actual records that we have been told about how many aircraft have been shot down. Nobody seems to be able to confirm this. You can chalk this one up as a pure hoax. Like my videos, subscribe to my channel.